All right, everyone. I'm here with my good friend Joe, and
Hello.
Joe and I have been friends since high school. We became close friends. We bonded a lot over music and a bunch of other stuff. So we wanted to get him here on the pod and talk to him a little bit, hear his story, see how he's been doing. So Joe, if it's all right with you, I wanted to open this up with a question. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So my first question is, you're an artistic guy in my opinion, and that's always been something that I've looked up to you for. So I
Thanks.
wanted to get a little more information on your story with that, because like I said, we met in high school, but
Yeah.
I wanted to hear about your early experiences with music and film and acting and all of those things, and kind of
Yeah.
how you got into to that whole field in general and how that's played out for you.
Sure, yeah. I mean, honestly, I never really considered myself to be an artist. I mean, even to this day, I feel like everyone's an artist in their own way. Whether it be the hobby that they enjoy, the time that they spend doing certain things that they love, or even their job. Like if it's a certain craft, that's art in and of itself. And then kind of come no one in my immediate family was particularly artistic in any degree. My sisters played piano when they were younger, throughout middle school, but they hated it. So
Yeah.
my parents were like, we're not going to waste the money or time sending you through it. Like if it's something you want to do, then speak up. But I kind of what caught my eye is, before high school, in eighth grade, I had a really good English teacher, and she really made us take a deep dive into literature, and I fell in love with storytelling.
Mm.
Um, and then all art kind of boils down to telling a story, whether it be
Yeah.
paintings, photography, videography, music. It's a journey. Uh, and then come high school, you know, getting into like movies and having like a wider net of friends talk about the music they listen to, the different movies they like, TV shows, yada yada. And also, what was that? More than 10 years ago was a huge Hulu, Netflix like boom, like a streaming service boom, and
Yes.
all sorts of stuff coming out, really good stuff. And just I fell in love with cinematography,
Hmm.
cameras, and just the art of storytelling. And that kind of is the roots of the trees and the many branches I branched out with
Yeah.
ever since, just falling in love with stories.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, I love writing, I love music, but
Sure.
um, I think cinematography specifically is something that I've overlooked in the sense of a way to tell a story, but undoubtedly
Yeah.
it has a huge effect,
Yeah.
um, and
Yeah.
it's more subtle or more nuanced maybe in the sense that when you're writing I mean you're quite literally writing a story, so that
Yes.
or you're writing a script or you're writing a song, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the cinematography, it's almost on a different kind of a level. I'm not exactly sure how to articulate it correctly, but it,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it's like it's almost a layer removed, and it
Yeah.
but it, but it does have a huge effect, and whether you have different angles or different shots, it can invoke various emotions and tell the story in a different way.
Of
And
course.
it's super interesting. So you touched on something interesting, which is the
Mhm.
streaming service
Yeah.
boom, which I haven't even thought really that much about in terms of how many people probably were influenced heavily by that. So you had this teacher, right? You
Yeah.
you fell in love with literature, which I think
Yes.
English teachers are super underrated, man. Like a lot of my English teachers helped me a lot and made me discover a lot about myself and a lot
Yep.
about
Yep.
art as well.
Yeah.
So you started consuming a lot of the different types of content and
Yeah.
like what? What were you originally drawn to?
Um, I mean, man, I like to trace it down to one thing. I couldn't
Yeah.
even tell you like what TV show necessarily drew me in at that time. I remember watching though Blade Runner for the
Ah.
first time. In that, invoked like my deep curiosity in cinematography, storytelling, and um the whole audio scoring aspect
Mm.
of movies. Um and things really blossomed from there in the different paths that I took to within film and storytelling and writing stuff as well,
Yeah.
and music, honestly, that as well. Not that that movie kicked off my love for music, but
Right.
how music and audio, much like cinematography, just adds such a complex layer and this flavor to what you are experiencing that is just, undeniably uh central to what you're consuming and watching.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you say that, two movies specifically stick out for me in terms of
Yeah.
the so would the soundtrack that would be the scoring or am I wrong?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The scoring, yeah.
So the scoring for uh first Into the Wild, it's got that
Mhm.
Pearl Jam album soundtrack,
Yeah.
and it kind of sets the tone for the movie to be like
Yeah. Yeah.
a little melancholy and it's got like a wanderlust type of feel to it. And then as
Yeah.
well, um uh, uh, Goodwill Hunting. It's got all
Yeah.
those Elliott Smith songs, and I
Yeah.
think that without the music in those movies, there kind of has to be music, or I guess there doesn't
Sure.
have to be, but if there was a different soundtrack for both of those movies, they would have a completely different feel, and it
Million percent.
yeah, it kind of sets the tone for it. So
Yeah.
when you were growing up,
Mhm.
who was your influences or who were you listening to musically early on?
Um, Having two older siblings, they kind of got into um just different music than what a lot of my friends were listening to at the time, or a
Yeah,
lot of my friends with older siblings were listening to stuff. Because I mean, at a certain point in time, like when you're riding in your older sibling's car, they're gonna play their music,
of
and you're
course.
like, oh, damn, like this is good, this is cool.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really got into early is EDM.
Hmm.
Is I don't know, I guess as funny as that sounds,
That's interesting though.
yeah, I remember when my mom got an iPhone, and Pandora, the app came out,
Yeah.
and just going on total tangents, like plugging headphones in, borrowing her phone to like play on apps and just listening to Pandora in the background. And it introduced me into a lot of different like EDM stuff. And Daft Punk really emerged for
Mm.
me. And it felt like a guilty pleasure for a long time, EDM.
Hmm.
Just because of what the scene entails.
Yeah.
And like my sisters would listen to it because they were, in high school and I was young and in college and stuff and in the party scene, and they would show me like just fun, just
Yeah.
just a
What's
good
not to
beat and
like?
stuff. What's not to like? So yeah, but then, like admitting that to people and they're like, "Oh, what? Like you're not listening to rap right now or like,
Yeah.
this new album, this soft rock album." It's like, "Nah, like not as much." And then, come 10 years later, it made such a resurgence in my life. Um and
Wow.
that's kind of it's funny to say Daft Punk is almost like classic EDM in a way.
Yeah, it is. But that's interesting because I didn't know that um you had such an affinity for it growing up
Yeah.
as well. Because obviously I know now that you enjoy it and you make some of it yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting to hear that back then you were listening to Daft Punk. Can you remember any specific songs, any Daft Punk songs that you really enjoyed or that you do enjoy now? Can you, because I'm really the only one that I can remember is
Yeah.
uh this might not be the right thing. It might not be.
Something about us,
Yeah, something about you.
dude.
That's the only one I can really recall off the top of my
Such
head.
such a masterpiece of a song, and I'm so glad that you brought that one up because a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, like Technologic or like Around the World," and it's like, "Oh yeah, those are great songs," but anybody knows those, especially if you've gone to college and gone to a few parties.
Yeah.
Um, dude, yeah, something about us is is way ahead of its time and also classic in its own way too. Such a funky beat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And shoot, when did that even come out? Like the mid 2000s.
Yeah, I have
Um
no idea.
yeah, I mean they were just Daft Punk was on their own path in making that song. It's such a good song, but it didn't fit in with the zeitgeist at the time of like what was being released on the radio.
Yeah.
And certainly like nobody's really playing that at parties or like at the club or anything. Um, but I, oh man, what is so many are good. Like, yeah, what got me into them is Technologic. I mean,
Technologic. Yeah, I remember my sister showed me that song as well. The
yeah,
music video is pretty cool too.
yeah. In a Around the World as well, when they're like the
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
video, they're just like going in a circle. Um,
Yeah, that's
is that the right
so
one? Yeah,
I
I
think
think so.
so. Yeah, I think so. And so Daft Punk is it's two guys, right?
Yeah.
And
Thomas Bangalter. Ah, shoot, I totally might be mistaking their names, but yes, it is two French guys.
so it's two French guys and so let's use the example of the song. It's called Something About Us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you even really go about making that song? Can you make that song directly from your laptop, or do you need other
Oh yeah.
equipment?
No. Not these days, man. Just even the most basic computers and even free music making software is so much more complex than it was even 5 years ago. And the computer is the new synthesizer, right? The synthesizer came
Hmm.
along way long ago to synthesize different sounds and to manipulate electronic currents to make sounds we've never heard before. And now computers can emulate like you could play the sitar or copy Slash's guitar sound from Guns N' Roses by using like your keyboard,
Hmm.
and having some app plug in. Like, yeah, your computer has limitless, I would say almost too many possibilities
Hmm.
when it comes to making music. But yeah, like yeah, you need limited equipment to recreate that song, but
Huh.
it,
And
the oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, and relatively speaking, is it
Hmm.
is it difficult? I mean, obviously the creativity is immensely difficult to create something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the the technical know-how, like what does that look like? What are you using, like FL Studios, or there's different programs, or how does that work?
Yeah. So I use Logic Pro,
Okay.
and that just stems from being comfortable messing around in GarageBand from being a young kid.
Yeah.
Many things translate over, and it's just like an operating system that you're familiar with. It's just a grown-up version of GarageBand, with more bandwidth to do different things and to handle, larger capacity songs and all your different plugins and yada yada. But to go back to Daft Punk, like to make that song, I find the beauty is in the simplicity of it, right?
Yeah.
It just starts off with this gorgeous synthesizer organ, the synth organ, um, or what's it called? Mellotron. Ah, man, I'm out of practice apparently.
Yeah,
Uh,
something like that.
Gorgeous chords, yeah, that just sets this like ethereal, nostalgic, like warm place,
Yeah, that's a great
um,
way of putting it.
and then it gets into this funk, right? And yeah, it's not hard to make, but like I said, the beauty is in the simplicity. And again, no one was making music like that at the time. But you
Yeah,
know,
I wonder what their influences are, because do they do interviews and stuff, or they're relatively like secretive? I thought they got the masks
yeah,
and all that stuff.
yeah, that was their MO the whole time, is that the beauty is the music. It's not the artist. They want to separate themselves from the music. They didn't want to be these superstars, although they are, multi-platinum superstars. But if they were shopping right next to you at, Target, you
Right.
wouldn't know who they are. And they did such a great job at being anonymous. They could put their full work just into the music and not have to worry about uh appearances. And then yeah, for interviews especially, they were just pretty low key. You can find some early ones, but they're very thickly French accented.
Yeah, so have you been making a fair bit of music currently, or um
uh I've taken a bit of a break, I
mhm.
suppose. I finished a class in music production.
Yeah.
We Yeah, it wrapped up. Started it, oh man, January, and it ended, I don't know, 3 months after that. And that was pretty intensive. I got out of it a lot of technical things, which
Yeah.
is so helpful. But for whatever reason, being forced to make something and like turn it in as an assignment, I don't know. It was weird. And like I turned in my last assignment and like I haven't even opened Logic Pro since. Not that I'm turned off by it by any means. I was just like, I felt so bad that I wasn't as competent as some of the other students in this
Yeah.
class at mixing. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, dude, is this even like right for me? And
Yeah.
then just kind of recently, um, at the end of summer, which I guess is now, like work got a little bit less busy for me, and I was able to retouch on just some like basic stuff. I bought this old Korg synthesizer and vocoder, and you know, plugged that in and played it for a little bit, and I was like, oh, nice. I could definitely incorporate this into some future stuff. And then just being like, do I need to be good at certain things to release stuff? And you don't. As
Yeah.
long as you're willing to A, collaborate, and B, probably pay for it.
Yeah.
Like the architect of a house isn't the one who's like pouring the concrete, right? For the
Exactly.
foundation.
Yeah.
So I was so in a perfectionist mode of like what I record, I mix, I master, I produce. I was like, dude, that's too much, man. You killed your creativity by trying to ace an assignment. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I mean?
and trying to be. I mean, I don't know a ton about it,
Yeah,
but my cousin, he is doing like mixing as
yeah,
a job right now, and
yeah,
from the sound of it, I mean that's all they do. And there's a guy and him, and
mhm,
that's it's the guy's full-time job. It's my cousin's part-time job, and
yeah,
they mix songs, and that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
extent of their job. And this guy, lives a very comfortable, nice life doing so.
yes,
And I think that you do have to delegate out at a certain point, especially if you want to hone in on what you're good at. I mean, like I said, I don't know a lot about it, but if I had to guess, I think it would be good to figure out what you, first of all, enjoy the most, and what you
right,
are very good at and want to
right,
do, and what feels like more like play to you than work.
yeah,
And then you
yeah.
delegate out those other pieces that are work.
100%. Yeah, you got to play to your strengths for sure. Um, and then obviously just being in the physical location that I'm in right now, there's not a lot of resources
Yeah.
for collaboration. But soon enough, I'll probably make the move to Los Angeles again.
Yeah,
And,
so I
you just run into people at a coffee shop who are willing to work with you.
exactly, yeah, and I did want to touch on that. So,
Yeah.
is that's pretty much gonna happen once the stars align in terms of all your logistics
Yes.
and everything.
Yeah.
You're gonna make your way back out to
Yeah.
LA. And
Yep.
my question about that is, do you have like a primary focus once you get out there? Do you want to be focusing more on film stuff or music or both, or what's your thought process there?
Uh, I would lean towards music. Um, my job right now is in you know, motion pictures or film
Hmm.
photography. So not music, but they kind of go hand in hand, especially, bumping shoulders with like-minded people,
Yeah,
working certain jobs. Yeah, I want to get more into the music scene. Um, just, I don't know, for myself, it's a passion project.
yeah,
I'm so grateful to have a job that allows me to, pay fucking LA rent and also have creative time to well be creative
yeah.
and pursue passions and stuff like that. So yeah, I want to see what's good with the music scene down there.
Nice. And do you think? mm, I mean, off the top of your head, like, are you going to be mainly looking to make like more electronic music, or some guitar stuff, or maybe just do whatever you want to do at that time? Because, like you said, it is a passion project, and you should just be
Yeah,
doing what you feel passionately about.
yeah, 100%. I mean, geez, with with the way my brain works, like, I'm like a dog watching squirrels run by. What something catches my attention or my focus, or I get a little taste of inspiration, and then I just want to, make a whole album based off of that.
Hmm.
I mean, if I had to just be an artist, and a producer, it would be EDM.
Hmm.
Um, but I do have experience in other instruments and an affinity for other genres that I would love to ultimately incorporate into movies and like scoring, right? I mean, you're not
Yeah.
gonna have like EDM in Lord of the Rings.
No, no,
Um
not in most movies. Maybe in some, though. I mean, you have
yeah,
some.
yeah. Like Tron Legacy actually is, as much as people shit on that movie. Um Daft Punk did the scoring for it, and I think it is so, so, so sick. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's the newer one, not the OG. Uh, Disney made it in like 2010 and hired Daft Punk to score it.
That's sick.
Dude, yeah, that is a guilty pleasure movie for sure. And people either have never seen it or don't want to because it's not very well received, but it's going to be a future classic. So
So you
yeah,
like
there's a time and
you
a place
you,
for
you like the
EDM.
movie as well as the scoring on it?
Man, the storyline is predictable. You know, the plot, it's simple, man. It's at the end of the day, it is a Disney movie.
Yeah,
Um,
good watch.
but it's like the lights, the neon
Mm.
is crazy. Like, yeah, the digital cinematography and the the what am I what's the uh how they make images. Why am I struggling to find the word? Like green screen effects.
The CGI.
Yeah, CGI, duh. The CGI in it is cool as well. And then yeah, the scoring is just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just spitballing here, and I'm thinking like in my ear isn't to the ground the same way yours is with the
Mhm.
EDM. So I could totally be wrong here, but at least in the mainstream sense of things, like it seems like EDM is kind of ripe for almost a new type of genre, or we need some sort of new revolution. I'm sure there's some things going
Yeah.
on like in the underground that I don't know about, and maybe you can
Yeah.
bring those to my attention. But in terms of the mainstream, it seems like it's getting a little bit repetitive, and
Yeah.
so I'm wondering, what do you think? Where do you think we're at with the current state of things, and what do you think artists can do to kind of shake up the monotony if there is any?
Yeah. Uh Man, that's a loaded question. I mean, I'm not in the underground scene. I don't have the answers to
Yeah.
what's going on specifically, but just kind of historically, I feel like trends follow technology.
Okay.
Um, Once the electric guitar was created, the acoustic guitar was just thrown out the window.
Right.
Everybody, especially younger kids, or teenagers at the time, just wanted to listen to rock and roll, right?
Hmm.
And then yeah, in the 70s and 80s, you get the synthesizer, and all of a sudden people are like, yo, this robotic sounding thing kind of funky. Um, and it just builds from there. And now almost every genre has some element of synthesis in it. And that just comes like we were speaking about the computer and just like what you can do with it. Um, the amount of crossing of genres that we have right now, or like influences of one genre and another, heavily correlates not only with, a global um culture of like music, of listening to different music from around the globe, but also now you have computer, you don't need an 808 in your studio to play
Yeah.
that. You don't need like legit congas. You don't need, a sitar. You have that on your computer. And
Hmm.
now I feel like music is kind of um keeping its roots in their respective genres, but homogenizing in production, if that makes sense. Like the effects you can put on stuff.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Bass is really big right now, like drums. And that's not only the technology of what you're recording with or the instruments, that's also the technology that we're listening with, right? Our headphones are crazy good. Our speakers just in like a cheap car, new cheap car, just like
Yeah, they're so
still pretty
good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. It
So,
it makes it
yeah.
so fun to listen to, like, for example, like a rap song with super heavy
Yes.
bass. It's nice
Yes.
in the car. So I get what you're saying there. Yeah, I've been meaning to go to a drum and bass show out here, in Argentina. I think they do, like, drum and bass out here, or at least my friend invited
Yeah.
me to go to a show, and it was drum and bass is pretty heavy, man. Like the
Yeah.
way, or at least the what they were playing at that concert, like it's pretty it's no joke.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so kind of to go back to what we were just talking about, like a trend for sure that's happening in music is faster BPMs.
Mm.
And that's kind of across the board. And I theorize that that is kind of the TikTok era slash like short attention span type
Ah,
epidemic happening. It's cool, you know what I mean? And like if I asked I don't know, like my mom, if she likes drum and bass, she'd be like, no. You know, if I show her a song, she's like, dude, I don't even want to listen to that. But then
yeah.
she's like scrolling on her phone on like Instagram or something and is
Hmm.
watching, you know, some dog getting its hair cut, and in the background it's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just like
exactly.
you're listening to it right now, and she's like, oh, I didn't even notice. So yeah, yeah, faster BPMs is it, and drum and bass is making a pretty big comeback as well. And it's big in, is it big in Argentina, or you're saying that it just happens?
I don't know if it's big. I don't know if
Yeah.
I would necessarily use the word big because
Yeah.
I've only heard of this one show that they do, but
Hmm.
that is the only EDM show that I've heard of.
Hmm.
But a couple of the guys that I've gone to a couple rap concerts out here. Rap is definitely big. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've gone to a couple rap concerts out here, and some of the guys that I've talked to, they also are fans of like drum and bass and then like house music
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Yeah.
so I think, I mean it's yeah, it's kind of universal. If it makes you want to get
Sure.
up and dance, it makes you want to get up and dance. Like
Sure. Sure.
it's, that's good music. But yeah, it's interesting to hear about how it kind of follows the trends, and it's also a little bit like clothing fashion in the
Yeah.
sense that it comes and goes. Because wasn't
Yeah.
drum and bass was a thing in like the 90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in Europe. Yes.
Yeah, it was like a European thing in the 90s, and now
Yeah.
it's making a huge resurgence. Who's like a big drum and bass person?
Oh man. Sub Focus.
Sub Focus?
Um,
Interesting.
yeah. He's he makes good stuff. I've definitely been on my drum and bass uh passion lately
Yeah,
and stuff, and listening to new things coming out and whatnot. Um, it's cool. I kind of want to go to a show, man. I mean, again, where I'm at right now, physically, there's not big venues, but you'd have to go to like San Francisco or Los Angeles for that. Even Sacramento is kind of too small for a
definitely.
lot of techie stuff.
Yeah, they don't really have like that like small club vibe that I personally enjoy. Like they get,
Yes.
there'll be like a bit like big artists, or like they'll have big artists at, like say Golden One,
Yeah.
and then they'll have some medium artists at other venues, but that'll typically be like uh a bunch of people together, or it'll be
Yeah.
some sort of event, whereas
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
can't really go and catch just like a random show. And then I mean, you could go catch like maybe a tiny show in the back of a bar, but like they don't
Yeah.
have that sweet spot, like small kind of like what do you like, a boiler room type of thing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
want to see.
A
uh,
100%.
yeah. What music have you been listening to recently? Drum and bass, and then you've been listening to anything else?
Um, uh, not a ton. I mean, I kind of like got back into more deep house, more progressive
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Just been going on a lot of like camping trips and download some of my old playlists. And a lot of it was like, yeah, deep house, melodic house, progressive, and just being out in nature or like, at your campsite, just looking out at the scenery and just like some nice progressive house. I don't know if that's weird to say. I certainly haven't heard anybody else camping listening to that type of stuff, but to each their own, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
if it does it
yeah.
for you, it does it for you.
Yeah, it's thought provoking to me or just not like distracting
Yeah, you don't have to pay
lyrically.
attention to the lyrics as much.
Right. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, and kind of to go back to like Argentina about what you were saying, how, rap, uh drum and bass and house are what would you say those are the top three? Well, I mean, probably reggaeton or like more.
Yeah, people like, I mean, those are probably the top three that we would enjoy. I think like
Yeah.
I think there's a fair bit of people that enjoy like what's that one person's name? This super famous person right now. I think her album is number one in the on the Billboard. Maybe
Uh,
Olivia something. The I'm working
Rodrigo?
late. No, the I'm working
Oh.
late.
Oh, Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, people like
Yeah.
Sabrina Carpenter, Taylor Swift, like that.
Yeah.
I mean that's popular anywhere you go in the world, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in terms of stuff that we would like, I would say rap is popular. Um,
Yeah.
and what's interesting is there's a lot of like kind of 80s style music that people enjoy as well. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like it would almost remind you of The Cure. Um, for
Huh.
I think yeah, but Argentina is a big country, so there's
Yeah.
my buddy, he was showing me some music like more from the rural areas that's
Yeah.
like finger picking guitar type of stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different genres out here that people enjoy, but yeah, I would say yeah, like if we can just do a blanket term of like club music, like EDM,
Yeah.
bass,
Hell
that type
yeah.
of stuff, and then yeah, rap as well for sure. But it's a good music scene out here. Like there's a lot of free concerts to go to, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think you hit it on the head earlier. Like, just what gets people moving, what gets people dancing is, popular. And that's what I like about music culture outside of the States is you're not bound to one. You know what I mean? Like my most of my friends who love rap hate EDM
Yeah.
or like vice versa. And certainly my friends who listen to country hate rap and EDM.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's cool like yeah, Europe, South America, how it's open, right? You can feel free to listen to what you want to listen to. I like that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mean I don't want to get in trouble by saying this, but I think a lot of the at least like I think for rap and EDM and like kind of pop style music, I think
Hmm.
that places like Argentina and places I'll just say for Argentina, I think get a lot of influence from the United States. And so
Yes.
a lot of the music ends up sounding pretty similar.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's cool when you get an artist that kind of breaks out from that mold and they're kind of obviously still taking influence, but
Yeah.
making it their own for sure.
Yes. Yes.
I find that interesting. I think in terms of you making music, I think there's a fair bit of samples out here if that could be worth digging into. Are you much of a sampler yourself when you're creating music or not so much?
Um, I used to be. I'm trying to kind of steer away from that just to get a little bit more originality.
Yeah.
And that stems from two reasons, or like the reason why I'm getting away from samples is for two reasons. One of them being there's so many options, I would just get analysis paralysis. Like I would spend hours just trying to find the right bass sound, the right synth, the right pads.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, man, I'm tired. And then I just never finish the song ever.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many options. Second to that, after scrolling through hundreds of thousands of different sounds and samples, when I go listen on like SoundCloud to new things being released, especially smaller artists, I'm like, they sampled that. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I recommend like I remember that song or that sample from, Splice.
Oh, I see. So it's
Yeah,
more like, especially if you are making your own music, you can hear when somebody's sampling something. That's interesting. I never thought about that because, of course, I don't
yeah.
do any of that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So, is it kind of seen as a negative thing in the music community?
Um if you sample a song, like a remix or you know, like crate digging,
Mhm.
which was especially popular back in the day, and that stems from literal artists, especially DJs and EDM artists back in the 90s, digging through 99-cent crates at record stores and
Yeah.
finding stuff to sample. But there were so many options, and they were so early to that scene of sampling that was cool, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now it's cool to sample a song to a certain extent, especially with how much you can distort it and twist it and make it cool. But to kind of get back to it, yeah, like one of the big sample archives is Splice, at least for
Hmm.
third party. Um, but also within, you know, different softwares, there's a big sample library. And yeah, if you're in the music industry and in the production side of it, you can totally tell when someone like didn't even put a filter on, the just the stock drums, or like specifically with Logic Pro and GarageBand, the default instrument is this like organ. I forget what
Hmm.
it's called, and we call that the forbidden instrument because that's just the default. Anytime you open your computer to Logic or GarageBand, like you can recognize it. So not that it's frowned upon, but the further you get away from the original sample, the better, right?
I see.
Otherwise, you're just filtering in something that's already been done, and especially if it's recognizable, you might get people dancing at the club with it, but like your record label is gonna be like, nah, bro, we're not like you're not going anywhere with that.
Yeah, and also you have to like clear that at a certain point, unless it's,
Yo, legally, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that as well, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess for me, when I think about sampling, I think about like you were saying, the crate digging of it, and like as a fan of rap, thinking about like, um I don't know, like The Alchemist, or certain people just, uh
Mm,
or Kanye West even. I don't know if that's okay
mm.
for me to even bring that name up, but so, like taking certain um samples, and
Yes.
it sounds badass on a
Yeah.
rap beat, but when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
taking somebody else's bass line and then
Yeah.
kind of, I don't want to say like repurposing as your own, but in a way,
Yeah.
like you said, if you don't put a filter on it, you're kind of just putting that into your song.
Yeah.
That's not as accepted, anymore,
A
maybe.
million percent.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So yeah, they're not inherently bad, but they're not inherently creative either, right? And I think
Yeah.
creativity is very valued when you're the artist. And at some point, people will call you out for it, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
but you might want to make your own samples with like sounds that you hear throughout your day, maybe
sure, yeah.
like a
Um,
waterfall or like something like that.
yes, 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 yeah, 100%. Setting the mood or the tone. A lot of songs in the background, whether you can hear it or not, has this layer of, it could be like rain or it could be thunder in the distance or birds. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, there's a lot of natural samples you could do as well.
Yeah, that's what my cousin was telling me is that like when there's a build up to a beat drop and stuff like that, like a lot of
Mhm.
times I forget the exact word that he said, like I don't think it was like white noise, but it's some sort of like, like ambient noise and you play it like up before a beat
Yep,
drop and like there's all these so many added layers that I never really
yep.
thought about. And so when you're creating a song like I obviously it depends, but do you have like how many layers do you typically have? Like
Oh
is
my God.
a lot?
Ah, yeah, yeah. It has to be, especially in this day and age, like you have to add so many flavors into this song for people to be like, "Oh, this is, new and interesting," and just to captivate your audience, right? Like that's why we don't really make black and white movies anymore. Is because it's like, dude, we can watch this in 10K now in like ultra high definition, a billion colors on the screen. It's just like gorgeous. So
Yeah.
it's hard to not have a lot of layers in there. Um, Now that doesn't mean that it can't be simple,
Yeah.
but the sounds in which you are making have so many layers to it, uh, just to kind of keep it competitive, dare I say.
Because it has to sound like full. Is that where you're like where that comes from or
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. And I don't know, people can disagree. I'm really thinking from an EDM mindset,
right,
right?
right, right. Me too.
Uh, yeah, you have to have a lot of attention grabbing sounds and fills, and like dead space is just kind of awkward.
Hmm.
Um, so you need to like keep something in the audience, in the listener's ears, like almost at all times. And that happens by layering things in. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the short attention span where it's like you have to keep people entertained or else they're gonna click off of your song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I,
100%.
yeah, I did want to circle back to your camping thing. You've been enjoying the camping. How's the camper treating you?
So sick, dude. I think we took our last trip in it this past weekend
Nice.
to the coast. Because uh making the move to LA, just it would, we can't take that
Yeah, it's
down. You
not
know what I mean?
feasible.
No, no, no chance. Um but fortunately my sister and her husband are buying it, so it'll stay
Nice.
in the family. Which is super cool. Maybe it'll make a resurgence someday.
Yeah, that'd be
Uh,
good.
but it's been fun, dude. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
the ocean is really nice for camping, man. That's some of my favorite
yeah,
here is the ocean.
yeah, yeah, 100%. We were on the beach, one of the few places you can camp on the beach, and it's so spread out. And especially this summer has been very serene on the West Coast, especially the northern coast.
Hmm.
Usually, you have the fog rolls in, it gets a little bit colder, a little bit more rainy, but it was warm, like 75,
Hmm.
78 in the daytime, just so gorgeous.
That's blissful.
So yeah, yeah, it was really nice. I've been really savoring. the outdoors before heading back to Los Angeles, the
Going
concrete
back,
jungle.
yeah, there's gonna be so much concrete. Nice, but that's nice too
Yeah.
in its own sense. That's nice
Yeah.
in its own sense.
Yeah. It'll be cool to walk to the grocery store instead of drive half an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, and just the creativity of it all, right? And the people you meet. I'm excited for that. So yeah. I've
Yeah,
been
like
savoring the outdoors, but I'm really ready to get the creativity flowing.
yeah, it's hard because when you're it's nice to be kind of in the middle of nowhere, like camping or something like that. But then
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like there's no one to collab there's no one to collab with out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've been valuing collaboration a lot more than just being sort of like a maverick when it comes to my own creations.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much. Like I said before, I was worrying about, I had my finger in way too many pies of the creative process, and I just want to like delegate.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to introduce you to my buddy Santiago. I know you mentioned that you had listened to
Yeah.
podcast with him. I think you guys
Yes.
would definitely get along, and you could probably come up with some cool collaborations. He makes a little bit of music as well, does a lot of
Yeah.
writing, and he said he wants to write a screenplay. So I was thinking
Mm.
you guys could talk about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Has he been I forget if he mentioned, but has he been to like Los Angeles?
No, no. He went to he was in a couple different places, but no, he did
Yeah.
not go to Los Angeles. So
Okay.
but I think he would definitely love to. And I think
Yeah.
that's that he said that's one of his goals is to write a screenplay. So I mean I
Yeah.
don't know how involved that is, but I imagine it's pretty involved, right?
Oh, dude. Yeah. Like crazy.
So is that
Like
like
crazy.
is a screenplay when it's like Jack enters from the left, like
Yep.
and then he says this, and then so it's the dialogue, and then it's also the like actions that occur on the camera itself.
Uh, so the initial script,
Yeah.
I mean, screenplay is kind of like a broad term.
Okay.
Obviously it is the storyline, right? But I think man, it's been a second too. That the tech script, that's
Hmm.
the one where you get um another collaborator on your screenplay to write stage directions or shots and stuff like that. While the writer is writing a screenplay though for a movie, they can put in like pan to, but it doesn't get technical. That's why they call it a tech script when it's like, yeah, Jack enters from the back door.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that was too involved, but
No, no, that makes perfect sense. No, that
yeah,
makes perfect sense. So yeah, I think I'll talk to him about it. I think you guys could have some good conversations about stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I wanted to kind of wrap things up with a little question for you that we ask
sure.
everybody. And that's if you have like a life lesson or a little piece of wisdom you can instill on us today.
Um, Stay curious. Uh, leave no stone unturned. Adventure, meet people, go places, and question things regularly. Not in a bad sense, but keep it interesting, right? And explore. You'll never know, what door is going to lead to success, no matter how that may be, like relationships, friends, monetary success, or just the next new story you're going to share with, you know, your family, friends, kids for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I did want to mention that you have always been a very supportive friend to me and pushed me to do this podcast, pushed me to do a lot of things, and I've always had my back. So I really appreciate your support and everything, man.
Of course, yeah. No, honestly, you're the man to do it. Like you are the my friend who is curious and knows the questions to ask and keep conversations lively. I love listening to the podcast, and you're a phenomenal conversationalist, and you don't leave any stone unturned.
Well, thank you, man, again, and I'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna go ahead and end this, but for everybody listening, thank you. And again, Joe, thank you. You're the absolute man. Always good to talk to you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
See ya.